Right. Today, what we're going to be talking about is a topic that I deem very, very important. In order to even step off on your financial journey, this is a step you need to take, and that is creating a budget plan. Now, before we get started, make sure you subscribe and like if you haven't already. Now, this step is so important because if you don't have a budget, you don't necessarily know how much of your money you're keeping in your pocket, and you don't exactly know where you're allocating your funds to. So by keeping a budget, you can determine, all right, I have this much going here each month and I'm spending this much. So you know if you have an income problem, an expense problem, or some other kind of problem that you have not yet quite identified. So how we're going to attack this is more of like a Barney style approach, where I'm going to go through how you actually make a budget on board, and then I'm going to show you how you can track your budget pretty easily with your smartphone. So easy, a caveman can do it. So sit back, grab a pen and paper, grab a cup of coffee if you need it, and get ready to get after it. This step is going to be an 11-step process. So you're going to number your sheet from 1 to 11. And make sure you keep a fair amount of space in between each number, because there's going to be other subcategories that go underneath each category. So what I have here is some admin data. Now this is going to be, for you, it's going to be what you get on your pay stub or your LES statement. So I have the average income within the United States, which is $53,490, followed by your federal state taxes you pay, Social Security, and your state tax. I took all of this and divided it by 12 in order to figure out how much you get paid per month, how much you're taxed per month. So with an annual income of $53,490, I divided that by 12, and that's how I got a monthly income of $4,457.50. Now, if you have other sources of income, you can put that under category 1 as well. So under number 2, that category is going to be for your taxes. Now, the reason why I want you to put your taxes under your budget plan is because a lot of people have this mindset that if they get a $1,000 raise, that means they're taking home an extra $1,000. When in fact, the government is at least going to take 20% of that in taxes. So you might not be going home with $1,000, but more like $800 or less. So stay with me. Just remember, at the end of all of this, I'm going to show you how you can easily set up your budget with just this smartphone right here. But category 3, what I want you to do is put it as your insurance. Now, I only want you to put your life insurance and your health insurance underneath here. Not your car insurance, not your homeowner's insurance, not your renter's insurance. And we'll get to it shortly. Now, just to simplify it, I know the majority of my viewers are military, so I'm going to get rid of the health insurance because I know your employer provides that. So we're only going to have life insurance there. Now, for category 4 and 5, that's going to be your savings. Underneath your savings for 4, I want you to put emergency fund. And for 5, it's going to be your investments, which underneath that, I want you to have either TSP/401k, your Roth IRA, and other, for any other potential investment that you may have. Now, you might have heard the old adage, always pay yourself first. And that's exactly the idea behind having these 2 categories as your 4 and 5. So since every month you're going to be paying the government 20% in taxes, what you're going to do is pay yourself 20% as well. So category 4 and 5 should be at least 20% of what you make monthly. So how we're going to do that is you're going to get a calculator, put in 4,457 times 0.2, and that's going to give you $891.44. And since we're being generous here with ourselves, because we like to treat ourselves well, we're just going to make that $900. So within these 2 categories, between your savings and your investments, you should have $900 each month allocated. So we're making this budget under the assumption that this is your first time analyzing and looking at your budget. So what we're going to assume is that this person doesn't quite have an emergency fund yet. So what they're first going to do is they're going to match their employer match, whatever it is, with their 401k or TSP. And right now we just allocated it for $200, so $200. And then the rest of that money they're going to put into an emergency fund, aka the rainy day fund. Just because we don't know what might happen in the future, we got to build some kind of base, make sure we have 3 to 6 months of expenses covered in our emergency fund before we start getting actively aggressive with our investments. Now, category 6 is what's known as America's kryptonite, debt. So I don't know what your personal debt is, but I listed out some of the common ones, which are your credit card debt, car payments, and student loans. If you have a mortgage, I will not put that underneath here, and I'll show you why later. So don't worry necessarily about the numbers I use. We're going to focus more on the method behind this. So you're going to take all your debt and list them together, right? You're going to look at their interest rates and make the minimum payments on whichever ones have the lowest interest rate. And the one with the highest interest rate, I want you to be more aggressive on paying that one off. Also, when it comes to student loans, one thing, if you're still a college student or considering going to college, what you want to think about is whatever degree you're majoring in, when you get out of college, what is the annual salary for that degree? If your annual salary is less than however much debt you'll be coming out of college with, then it's probably not a good idea. Now, category 7 is going to be your housing. Now, remember earlier I said if you have a mortgage, not to put it under debt. Instead, you're going to put it under housing. Now, if you rent, it's going to be rent. If you own, it's going to be your mortgage. Now, the reason why I want you to do this is because you're going to look at your house or wherever you're renting as an entire entity. So how much does it cost you every month to live in this place? For example, if you rent, you might not pay some expenses such as water because your landlord covers that. But if you own the house, you're paying water bill, you're paying electric and gas, internet, trash, everything is covered. So that's why you're putting your mortgage underneath a separate entity under housing so you can see if you can truly afford what you own. Now, category 8 is going to be allocated for food. That includes groceries, restaurants, and snacks. Now, you see earlier, you've already covered your investments and your emergency fund. So this is the areas where you can start actually looking and thinking, wow, do I really need this? I struggle with this area a lot because I'm a big guy and I really like to eat. But maybe you can't afford to spend this much at restaurants each month. So maybe instead of hibachi, you might need to set up for McDonald's, or better yet, dig into that grocery fund and eat what you have at home. Category 9 is going to be transportation. And in there, you're going to have gas, car insurance. If you ride the train, maybe the PATH train, the metro, however much it costs you. Or if you ride the bus, maybe your bus pass. But there's a reason why earlier I said your car insurance will not go under insurance. I want you to put your car insurance specifically under transportation. Now listen to me. You might want a car, but you might not necessarily need a car. If you live in a city, it might be more practical to Uber everywhere you go, and you would actually end up saving a lot more money than owning a car. Let's think about it. If you have a car payment, gas, how much car insurance costs, maintenance, and let's say you fall asleep, don't wake up in time, you get a ticket. All these things have to be factored and calculated in order to see if it's actually more practical to own a car or realistically Uber, take the train or bus anywhere you need to go, which might be kind of a headache, but you'll save dollars. Category 10 is going to be dedicated towards your personal items. So you're going to have your phone bill, your fun money, because we all like to get jiggy at times, and your subscriptions. What you're going to want to check out is your subscriptions, because you might be subscribed to some things that you're not aware of. And then category 11, we're going to have health, which is going to include medicine, your pre-workouts, your hygiene, your haircuts, and the gym, because you got to get those gains. So some things to note here is that in some of these categories, you're not always going to use the money for it each month. So what I like to do is I keep different checkings accounts for different purposes. So what happens is every month after I don't use this money, I auto roll it into my emergency fund. So then it helps speed up my process to save up money to max out my emergency fund, which you want from 3 to 6 months of expenses saved in there. And what happens is whenever you tap into your emergency fund for, let's say your car breaks down and you need to get it repaired, and you tap into your emergency fund to get it repaired, you work up again to build up that emergency fund. And then once that emergency fund is built, that rest of that money, you allocate it towards your investments. So now that I spent a fair amount of time showing you how to do a budget the analog way, I'll show you how you can use this sweet little device in order to create your budget and follow it in a way where it will auto-generate each month so you literally don't have to lift a thumb. All right, guys, so we're here on the Every Dollar site. just Google every dollar and it'll take you to the Ramsey Solution site. Click on it. Now you're going to be using the free version. I know there's a premium version, but I'm never going to introduce anything to you guys that will require $1 out of your pockets. So I use the same numbers that we used on the board earlier. And as you can see, paycheck one. Now let me show you guys how to operate this site actually. If you want to change your main category, for instance, taxes, just click and it's as easy as that. Just make that adjustment. In order to change any of the subcategories, just click on it and it allows you to make those changes if need be. And to the left hand, after you click on it, there's a trash can. You click on that and that allows you to delete any categories that you do not want. Now with the main categories, if you want to get your category in the order that I had up on the board earlier, just go by the name and it allows you to move it with no problem. Now, one of the neat things about this app that I really like is you see how on the top left here, it says it's an every dollar budget. So let's say for instance, I were to move down. What's up with this? Move down. All right, let's go here. Under TSP 401k, let's say I change it to $100. Enter. See how it says now I have $100 left to budget. So this site basically forces you to allocate every single one of your last pennies to something. So every single dollar literally has a row. Hint the name every dollar. Boom. So once you put 200, bam, now it's a perfect match again. And what's pretty cool about this thing too, there's also an app for it that you can download on your cell phone called Every Dollar. And I like it a lot because soon as you make a purchase on the app, there's three categories: the planned, the spent, and the remaining. So all you do is click on the spent category, and then under whatever subcategory you want. Let's say, for instance, I already contributed to my emergency fund. I would go on the app, hit spent, and then put in the dollar amount of how much I spent. And then leave a memo or something to annotate. For instance, let's say I went to the store and bought a bag of chips. I would go under what is snacks, and then on the app, I would actually go to spend, and then I would put in 50 cents bag of chips, and then done. And then it would show me how much money I have remaining in each subcategory. Now, if you found this information useful today, make sure to subscribe and like in order to show my page some support. And if you have any further topics you want to hear about in the future, just leave a comment below. Thank you and see you next time.